Hey guys, it's JaaackJack and welcome back to my channel. So today we're doing a Bible study video. We're doing Matthew chapter 17 today. I know my schedule's a little off. It happens every single time I travel, which is why I try not to travel often. Even before the pandemic, I try not to travel often because I know it messes up my routine like greatly. So I'm still trying to get situated and settled again. So today is Wednesday and you're getting a Bible study, and this was supposed to be on Sunday. Forgive me. So today we're going over Matthew chapter 17. We have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections in this chapter. So the first one is the Transfiguration. Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. Jesus predicts his death a second time. And then the temple tax. So I guess let's just go ahead and jump on into it. As you guys know, I read the Jesus Bible, which is an NIV version. If you want the same one, I will leave it linked below. Matthew chapter 17, verse 1. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there approached before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. So you have Jesus there, and then you have Moses and Elijah, which were way back, way before Jesus. I feel like when we picture this transfiguration, it's just like I see these bright white lights and like Jesus just shining like the sun, and then him standing there just looking so bright and beautiful, talking with Moses and Elijah. Verse 4, Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. When we read these encounters that, people have with God, it terrifies them. Instead of we would think, oh, that would just bring you so much joy to be in the presence of God, to have an encounter with him like that. But it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Not extreme, but it's just so extravagant. That's not the word I'm looking for either. But it's just such a big scene, a big event, that it actually terrifies them. Verse 7, but Jesus came and touched him. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." When they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. So the cloud was gone, Moses and Elijah were gone, it was just Jesus again. Going back to verse 5 where it says, the voice from the cloud says, "This is my son whom I love. With him I am well pleased." That also happened when Jesus was baptized as well. Verse 9, as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus instructed them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until a Son of Man has been raised from the dead." So basically until Jesus resurrects. The disciples asked him, "Why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first?" Verse 11, Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man, Jesus, is going to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. So again, I feel like we've talked about this before, but John the Baptist was a very special person. And I think after reading this, it just confirms that John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah in him. And when Jesus is saying no one recognized him and they did what they wished to him. So John the Baptist, he was looked at as kind of a cuckoo, came from the wilderness, dressed in, what did it say, camel hair, and ate lotus. They didn't really look at John the Baptist as someone with authority from God. They just saw him look at this weirdo from the wilderness, dressed like that, eating weird things, he's a weirdo. And not only that, they arrested him because they thought he was the Messiah. And they didn't see him for who he was, and they also beheaded him. So they did what they wished, and in the same way, Jesus is saying he is going to suffer at their hands as well. Now the next section says, Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. Verse 14, when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. "Lord, have mercy on my son," he said. "He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him." Verse 17, "You unbelieving and perverse generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading. It's going to make more sense as we read. Verse 19, then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So this man brought his boy that was possessed. He had seizures and he was just suffering greatly. He brought his son to the disciples and they could not heal him. They could not help him. And they're like, why couldn't we, like, Jesus, you told us we could do this. How come we couldn't? And Jesus said, because you have so little faith. But even with that said, Jesus is saying, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen a mustard seed, but it's literally like the tiniest seed out of all the seeds, like so tiny. If you have faith just that size, you can move mountains with that kind of faith. So imagine if you have even greater faith, you can do even greater things. You can heal people possessed. You can heal people possessed by demons. You can do all these miraculous things like Jesus, but at the end of the day, you can't do anything without faith. When you do have that faith though, Jesus says nothing will be impossible for you just by having faith. Isn't that just like, that's just amazing, right? You can move mountains with just a little bit of faith. Imagine what you could do with a lot of faith. The next section is very small, but it's Jesus predicts his death a second time. I think, was it just the last chapter that we read? Yeah, it was chapter 16 where he predicted his death the first time. And remember, Peter reacted like, no, never, this will never happen to you. And then he was like, get away from me, Satan, because Jesus knows he needs to die this death, even though we don't want him to, but he had to because his love for us is so great. He did it to save us from the death we all deserve. Jesus dying on the cross was the ultimate sacrifice and the ultimate, the ultimate sign for his great love for us. So Jesus predicts his death a second time. Verse 22, when they came together in Galilee, he said to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised to life. And the disciples were filled with grief. So just like the previous chapter, when Jesus predicted his death for the first time, he said, that he's going to go to Jerusalem and suffer many things and be killed, but on the third day be raised to life. Like, there is hope in that sentence that's full of like suffering. The suffering and misery that Jesus has to endure, there's hope at the end because he's going to be raised to life. But obviously his disciples, as well as we would too if we were in that situation, they only focus on the bad and they were filled with grief. Like, they didn't want this to happen to Jesus. Now the next section is the temple tax. So verse 24, after Jesus and his disciples arrived to Capernaum, the collectors of the two drachma, no, I totally said that wrong. The collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he does, he replied. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. What do you think, Simon? He asked. From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others? From others, Peter asked. Then the children are exempt, Jesus said to him. But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you'll find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours. This is just such a great example how Jesus always provides. He said, go to the lake, grab a fish, open its mouth. There's gonna be the money for the taxes for mine and yours. So we're gonna be covered.
Sorry for the interruption, but while I was editing this, I had a new revelation about this verse. Jesus told Peter to go catch a fish because Peter was a fisherman. Jesus used Peter's gift of catching fish to provide for them and pay off their taxes. So when we trust in Jesus as our provider, he will use whatever our gifts are to provide for us the things that we need. How amazing is that, right?
And I love this example, and it's so true that Jesus really does provide. When you put your trust in him, he will provide the things for you that seem so impossible. But just like it said earlier, nothing will be impossible for you as long as you have faith. So when we have faith, everything is possible, and Jesus will most definitely provide, just like how he did in this situation with the temple tax. So that is it for this quick little Bible study. I hope you guys enjoyed.
And be sure to let me know what you enjoyed most or what spoke to you during today's study.
And I will see you guys not next Sunday, but the following Sunday for Matthew chapter 18. I love you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.